In my past life, my younger sister snatched the imperial decree to enter the palace as a concubine, but she was ill-suited for court intrigue and was schemed against by the empress, dying miserably in the cold palace. Meanwhile, I married the dissolute heir of a noble family. After our wedding, he led troops to war and within just 3 years, achieved illustrious military feats, gaining overwhelming power at court. After my sister's death, she pulled me along to be reborn together. This time, she voluntarily gave me the chance to enter the palace. Sister never competed with me before, so this time I want you to enjoy the palace's luxuries. Let me marry that dissolute heir instead. She didn't know that the heir was nothing but a fool. In my past life, our military campaigns remained undefeated solely because I commanded from the tent, mastering the art of war. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. The imperial palace has sent an edict, ordering our Song family to select one daughter to enter the palace. The Song family also has a marriage agreement with the Xiao family. If one enters the palace, the other must marry the Xiao family heir. Father sat on the high seat, looking at me and Song Nanji. Which of you two wishes to enter the palace as a concubine? Everyone in the capital knew that Xiao Chengyi, the heir of the Xiao family, was a notorious playboy with no ambition, keeping a harem of concubines and unable to go a single day without visiting the Spring Breeze Pavilion. Yet to become an imperial concubine, if one could win the emperor's favor, meant untold riches and glory. In my past life, my younger sister Song Nanji had rushed ahead of me, claiming her beauty surpassed mine and that entering the palace would surely win her the emperor's favor. She even promised our father that she would elevate the Song family's status step by step. Father, delighted by her words, didn't even consult me and directly gave her the privilege to enter the palace. This time, Song Nanji again spoke before I could, but what she said was, "Sister has never competed with me before. This time, I want her to enter the palace and enjoy its blessings. I'll marry the playboy nobleman instead." At these words, my eyelashes fluttered slightly, and I knew Song Nanji had also been reborn. The father seated high above suddenly lost his smile. "Nanji, matters of life are not to be treated lightly." He then turned his gaze to me. "Chenyun, what do you say? Do you wish to enter the palace or marry Xiao Chengyi?" In that moment, I suddenly understood. Though father appeared to be giving us a choice, he already had the standard answer in his heart. He knew that given Song Nanji's temperament, she would definitely choose to enter the palace. The moment Song Nanji spoke up, he would agree, but my choice didn't matter at all, unfortunately. He didn't know that Song Nanji had been reborn, and so had I. I knew Song Nanji would certainly not choose the palace this time, so why not play along? Following father's wishes might just earn me some goodwill. I deliberately smiled at Song Nanji with raised lips. "Little sister, don't be foolish. With your fair skin and beauty, you're naturally meant to enjoy blessings in the palace. The bitter days of being neglected by Prince Xiao are something you'd never endure." Song Nanji glared at me fiercely. "Song Chenyun, don't think I don't know. The palace is treacherous, and I might not outmaneuver those concubines, but marrying Prince Xiao makes me his one and only principal wife. Though his conduct is lacking now, he'll mature. I believe in him." No wonder Song Nanji died in palace intrigue in her past life. She couldn't even keep such a simple secret. I sneered inwardly but put on a troubled expression as I turned to father. "Father, please talk some sense into Nanji." With Xiao Shiz's frivolous demeanor, how could he possibly protect our sister properly in the future? Song Nanji seemed terrified I might steal him from her, rushing forward to hug our father while coquettishly pleading, "Father Tilda, I insist on marrying Xiao Chengyi. I believe he'll change after our marriage, Tilda. I swear to you, within 3 years, Xiao Chengyi will establish glorious military achievements and become the most powerful general commanding the court's respect." Father looked at her with a strange expression, but ultimately couldn't resist her insistence and agreed. I stood in the main hall, desperately suppressing the urge to let my lips curl into a wild grin. Song Nanji only knew that in her past life, she was ill-suited for palace intrigues and met a tragic end in the cold palace after being schemed against by the empress. While the man I married, Xiao Chengyi, achieved illustrious military feats within just 3 years, gaining overwhelming power at court, what she didn't know was that Xiao Chengyi was nothing but a fool. In my past life, The reason our military campaigns never suffered a single defeat was entirely due to my command in the tent, skillfully applying the art of war. The day I entered the palace was also the day Song Nanji married Xiao Chengyi. The entire mansion was bustling with preparations for Song Nanji's wedding, with only my personal maid Yu Huan keeping me company as we waited for the palace carriage. The palace carriage and Xiao Chengyi's wedding procession arrived almost simultaneously. I was about to board the carriage when Song Nanji called out to stop me. "Sister, after this parting, we may never meet again. I'd like to share a few heartfelt words with you." I turned back and looked at Song Nanji, dressed in her phoenix crown and red wedding robes, then walked over to her. Song Nanji leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Sister, the Empress loves peach blossoms most. When you pay your respects to her tomorrow, wear a peach blossom in your hair. It will surely make you stand out from the crowd." Though Song Nanji hadn't lifted her bridal veil, I could sense the corners of her lips curling upward. In her past life, Song Nanji's first mistake was presenting peach blossom cakes to the queen who was allergic to peach blossoms. Yet the scheming queen, fully aware of her allergy, deliberately consumed the peach blossom cakes Song Nanji had offered. That very night, the queen suffered severe allergic reactions, directly alarming the emperor who happened to be staying in Song Nanji's palace chambers. The empress's move directly caused Song Nanji to fall out of favor for several months. Having lived a second life, it would have been one thing if Song Nanji didn't warn me, but she even spread false rumors to frame me. What a venomous-hearted woman. I smiled faintly without showing my true feelings, pretending to believe her words. "Thank you, sister. I'll be sure to remember this well." Song Nanji raised her arms to hug me, putting on an act of reluctant parting. "Sister, I'm looking forward to the day we meet again." I knew what Song Nanji was anticipating. She was waiting for the day I'd die miserably in the cold palace. I curled my lips into a smile. "Little sister, I'm also looking forward to that day, the day you die miserably once more." After exchanging pleasantries, we boarded our respective carriages and bridal sedan chairs. The bridal sedan chair carrying Song Nanji turned left, accompanied by a 10-mile procession of red dowry, with gongs and drums creating a lively atmosphere. Meanwhile, my carriage to the palace turned right, solitary and quiet, with only Yu Huan genuinely happy for me. In my past life, Song Nanji often wrote letters home, most of which were filled with complaints about the imperial harem's concubines. On the day Song Nanji died tragically, my parents brought that stack of family letters to the general's residence, urging me to avenge her. Just as I finished reading all the letters and prepared to request an audience the next day to thoroughly investigate Song Nanji's death, she pulled me along as we were reborn together. I never expected that after our rebirth, her first thought would be to push me into the abyss. I truly felt absurd for ever having entertained the notion of seeking justice for her. Still, I must thank Song Nanji for those letters. They allowed me to gain intimate knowledge of every concubine in the palace before I even stepped foot inside. Now the power in the imperial harem is divided into two factions, the empress versus all the other concubines combined. Why do I say this? Because the empress equally despises every single concubine in the palace. She maintains no friendly relations with anyone, but the queen's maternal clan wielded formidable power, and no one dared to truly move against her. No matter how intense the covert or overt struggles became, the first step in entering the palace, learn to choose sides. Should you join the other concubines in opposing the queen, or place your hopes on the emperor, like Song Nanji, who might not be seen for 10 days or half a month? I think it's better to take the risk and try the strategy of winning over the empress. Perhaps the empress isn't as vicious as Song Nanji described in her family letters. My father's official rank isn't very high, so when I entered the palace, like Song Nanji in her past life, I only received the title of noble lady. In my first month in the palace, I was busy paying respects to and building relationships with all the imperial concubines. It's just that in this past month, the empress has never summoned us newly entered concubines, so I took the initiative and went to the Phoenix Palace without invitation to pay my respects to the empress. Your servant, Song Qianyun, pays respects to Her Majesty the Empress. May the Empress enjoy boundless happiness and peace. The Empress merely glanced at me before sneering coldly. Which consort's new confidant are you this time? Let me guess, is it noble consort Shu, or perhaps consort Ru? Neither, I came on my own. The queen took a sip of tea, still not looking at me. You do have courage, remaining so composed in the face of my suspicions. I smiled faintly. Your Highness's palace is profound and distant. Those who come must be sincere. I naturally brought a token of allegiance. Hearing this, the queen finally showed a flicker of interest in me, but not many, for she said, every year there are new concubines entering the palace who come to curry favor with me. They promise me mountains of gold and silver, swearing they'll never forget my kindness in the future. The Empress gave a cold laugh. As the Empress, do you think I lack such things? Your Majesty naturally lacks nothing. But, I paused for a second, raising my head to meet the Empress's gaze. What if I said I could help your Majesty regain the Emperor's favor? Bang! In an instant, the teacup in the Empress's hand shattered at my feet. Hearing the commotion, the palace maids rushed in. Your Majesty, are you all right? Before the Empress could throw me out, I decisively spoke up. If I fail to achieve it within a month, I will willingly throw myself into a well as an apology. The Empress's expression subtly shifted, and she raised a hand to dismiss the palace maid. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. In her previous life, Song Nanji's assessment of the Empress in her family letters was jealous. The general meaning is that as the queen of a nation, she lacks magnanimity, only competing for favor with the concubines in the imperial harem. Her jealous demeanor is utterly unbecoming of a queen. Unfortunately, Song Nanji didn't have a complete understanding of the situation. Xiao Qingyi once told me that the Emperor and Empress were childhood sweethearts. When the Emperor needed the Empress's maternal family's influence to help him ascend the throne, he promised her that no matter how many concubines entered the harem in the future, he would exclusively dote on her alone. Alas, a man's promise is the least trustworthy thing. Now, the one who enjoys the Emperor's exclusive favor in the palace is Consort Shu, who entered the palace just 2 years ago, followed by Consort Ru. The imperial concubines in the palace naturally formed alliances with the favored noble Consort Shu and Consort Ru, hoping to get a share of the Emperor's affection. The Empress refused to share her husband with anyone and couldn't stand any of them. I naturally became her best partner, because I didn't want that fleeting imperial favor at all. What I valued was the powerful maternal clan standing behind the Empress. After the palace maid closed the door, the Empress finally looked at me directly. No one has ever dared to make such a boast in front of me. Tell me about it. I walked up to the Empress and took out a box of fragrant balm from my sleeve. This is an aphrodisiac balm that I personally concocted. When a man smells this fragrance, he will be overcome with desire in moments. The Empress raised an eyebrow and took the balm from my hand. Wouldn't it be better for you to keep such a good thing for yourself? Why use it to curry favor with me? Because this concubine does not wish to share the imperial bed. The Empress was slightly taken aback. Among all the imperial consorts in this palace, there is not one who does not desire His Majesty's favor. To say you do not wish to serve him, you are truly the first. This concubine speaks sincerely. For I do not love His Majesty, my heart belongs to another. The Empress's eyes darkened. Does noble consort Song realize what she is saying? If these words were brought before His Majesty, it would be a crime punishable by the extermination of 9 generations. But moments later, the Empress seemed to have an epiphany. She carefully examined the scented ointment I had given her, smiling as she remarked on how clever I truly was. Indeed, these words that could condemn my entire family to a death without burial were precisely my pledge of allegiance. Since I held leverage over the Empress, it was only natural that I should offer a vulnerability of my own, without appearing to want nothing. How could Her Majesty ever lower her guard against me? However, the Empress looked at me. Attending the Emperor at night has never been your decision to make. It rests solely with His Majesty. I then took out a small jar of fragrant ointment from my bosom. If this concubine can concoct a scent to stir passion, naturally she can also brew one to extinguish it. Yet if this concubine does not attend His Majesty, she will not gain favor, and her days in the palace will surely become difficult. So you wish to exchange this incense for my protection? Understood. Moreover, this humble concubine possesses far more than just the art of perfumery. I struck a deal with the Empress. Though I told a small lie, I had no beloved in mind. What I truly coveted was the Empress's power. The fragrant ointment wasn't prepared by me either, but was taught to me by their stunning dancers when I fought against Xiao Qingyi in the western regions in my past life. But that's not important. Those who achieve great things don't fuss over minor details. After returning to the palace, I heard that the emperor stayed overnight at Fengyi Palace that very evening. This incident shocked the entire imperial harem, because before this, it had been tacitly understood that the empress's quarters were merely a place for the emperor to dine. He hadn't spent the night there in a very long time. Rumors began to circulate in the imperial harem. Some said the empress was basking in favor again, while others claimed noble consort Shu and consort Ru were about to fall out of grace. Noble consort Shu, however, seemed unperturbed. She continued her routine of inviting consort Ru for afternoon tea as usual. After feasting on flowers for too long, one inevitably grows curious about the taste of cow dung. The empress has aged and lost her charms. His Majesty is merely comforting her out of pity. Tomorrow he'll surely visit our palaces again. The emperor has favored me alone for 3 years. What harm is there in letting her have the empress for one night? The harem was silently swept into a storm of blood and intrigue. For the next day, the emperor once again stayed the night at the Phoenix Palace. Not just the next day, the emperor remained there for over half a month. The entire harem was in an uproar. Some neglected concubines began to shift with the wind, currying favor with the empress. The queen didn't give them a single glance, seeing only me. As time passed, I became the queen's favorite, and those who couldn't curry favor with her turned to flatter me instead. Every day, I would brainwash these concubines with inspirational stories in exchange for jewelry and silver. After all, finding a way to send a letter back home was still quite expensive. So in her past life, when Song Nanji sent so many letters home, it must have been because father and mother secretly gave her financial support. But now that I've been in the palace for over 2 months, not a single letter has come from home. I was still somewhat curious about Song Nanji's married life. So I took the initiative to send a letter home inquiring about her recent circumstances. A reply arrived less than 2 days after sending the letter. This letter from home was written by Song Nanji, who asked in her letter, "Have you attended the emperor's bedchamber? Did you send peach blossom pastries to the empress? How are your relations with the other concubines in the palace?" She also asked. Xiao Qingyi has been indulging in the romantic affairs of the Spring Breeze Pavilion since marriage. How can we persuade him to lead troops into battle? I burned the letter after reading it and did not reply to my family. After a period of being fawned over by the concubines, the long-neglected noble consort Shu came to visit my humble little courtyard. "So you're Song Qianyun, not much to look at, are you?" This was my first time meeting imperial consort Shu. Her hair was adorned with floral hairpins and pearl crowns, her palace robes woven from the finest golden threads. Every smile and glance of hers was utterly captivating, her eyes naturally exuding charm. No wonder she had won the emperor's exclusive favor. I quickly knelt down. "This humble concubine pays respects to your highness the imperial consort. May your highness enjoy boundless fortune and peace." I remained kneeling for some time as imperial consort Shu seated herself before me. Showing not the slightest intention of letting me rise, I clenched my skirt tightly in my hands. Even the empress had never made me kneel for so long before. This consort Shu was truly cunning. Thankfully, I hadn't chosen to rely on her back then. "Want to get up?" Consort Shu lazily swirled the tea in her cup, her voice dripping with indifference. I raised my head to look at her. "I do." Consort Shu smiled faintly. "If you want to get up, then tell me, what is the empress's secret for keeping the emperor in her chambers every night? I've investigated. Ever since the day you went to Fengyi Palace to see the empress, His Majesty has become a different person. In these past 2 months, he's visited my palace only a handful of times." "Noble consort Song, what exactly did you teach the empress?" My legs had gone numb from kneeling, so I stood up directly. "Noble consort, if I help you, what's in it for me?" Noble consort Shu raised an eyebrow. "If you can be of use to me in the future, I'll give you double whatever benefits the empress promised you." My gaze fell on the golden hairpin in her hair. "I've taken quite a liking to that golden hairpin of yours, noble consort." Imperial consort Shu concealed the disgust in her eyes, removed the golden hairpin from her hair, and with a smile, pressed it into my hand. "If my sister likes it, then take it." The transaction with Imperial Consort Shu was thus completed with the exchange of this golden hairpin. I retrieved the box of scented ointment I had been using from beside the bed and handed it to Imperial Consort Shu. With this fragrant ointment's assistance, I believe her ladyship the noble consort will soon regain His Majesty's favor. Consort Shu was overjoyed. Clutching the ointment, she immediately prepared to go snatch His Majesty back from Phoenix Palace. After Consort Shu departed, I toyed with the solid gold hairpin in my hand for a while before instructing Yuhuan to deliver it to the Empress's palace. The following hours I spent waiting for Consort Shu to come storming to my door. After all, the ointment I'd given her was designed to suppress amorous desires. In just 7 days, several jokes about Consort Shu circulated through the palace. Consort Shu publicly tried to snatch the emperor, only to be gently rejected. Consort Shu failed to keep the emperor overnight. He slipped away to Fengyi Palace by midnight. Consort Shu has completely fallen out of favor. While the emperor and empress remained deeply devoted, I was still too careless. Thinking Consort Shu would confront me openly, little did I expect to be drugged and kidnapped to her palace while admiring flowers in the imperial garden. Consort Shu poured scalding tea on my face, then ordered her maid to slap me. Song Qianyun, how dare you mock this consort? Coming to my senses, I smiled at Consort Shu and provoked her further. Your Grace jests. If it doesn't work for you but serves the Empress perfectly well, have you considered the problem might lie with yourself? Imperial Consort Shu flew into a rage, hurling the teacup in her hand straight at my face. I didn't dodge. The jade teacup struck my temple and shattered instantly, while crimson blood began seeping from the wound. Noble Lady Song, if you tell me the truth now, I might spare your life. You should know, my standing in His Majesty's heart far surpasses even the Empress's. That woman only sits on the throne because of her brother, the Guardian General of the nation. Recently, there's been unrest at the border, and soon her brother will lead troops to war. I've heard the Northern Qiong have brought tens of thousands of elite soldiers. Whether the Empress's brother can return alive, how dare you? Matters of the imperial court are not for you, Consort Shu, to discuss. The doors of Consort Shu's palace were pushed open as the Empress entered with majestic dignity. Consort Shu cast her a sidelong glance, showing not the slightest intention of rising to pay respects to the Empress. Lady Song must have quite the reputation. I merely invited you to the palace as my guest for half an hour, yet Her Majesty the Empress has already come knocking at my door. The Empress motioned for her maids to help me up from where I was kneeling prostrate on the ground. Might I ask what offense Lady Song has committed against noble Consort Shu to provoke such a vicious act of disfigurement? Naturally, such covert struggles for favor were not matters to be discussed openly. Imperial Consort Shu sneered and looked at me. Noble Lady Song stole one of my golden hairpins. I've sent people to search her palace. Does Her Majesty the Empress intend to protect even thieves? The Empress raised her hand, signaling a palace maid to bring something to the consort. Sister, is this the hairpin you lost? Look at your memory, you left it in my palace last time when you came visiting. Imperial Consort Shu took the golden hairpin from the palace maid's hand, a flash of ruthlessness flickering in her eyes. Clutching the hairpin, she lunged toward the Empress. Shen Ronghua, you've conspired with Song Qianyun to humiliate me. Do you truly believe I fear you? Today I'll make sure you learn your lesson. Enough, just as I rushed forward to shield the Empress. The Emperor, who had been standing at the palace entrance for a long time, strode in swiftly. Noble Consort Shu, it seems we have been too indulgent with you lately. An overwhelming sense of pressure filled the air as the Emperor's voice turned icy cold, devoid of any warmth. From this day forth, noble Consort Shu is stripped of her authority to assist in managing the 6 palaces. All account books in her possession shall be returned to the Empress. The noble Consort Shu, whom the Empress and I had outmaneuvered, stood frozen in place, still dazed long after the Emperor had walked away. Stripped of her authority to assist in managing the 6 palaces, she had now completely fallen from favor. The Empress and I returned together to the Phoenix Palace. While the imperial physician tended to my injuries, the Empress closed the doors and began auditing noble Consort Shu's accounts. After the physician left, I walked over to the Empress's side. Did her ladyship scheme against Consort Shu just to retrieve the account book from her? The Empress closed the account book and looked at me. Do you really think I'd compete for favor just for some marital affection with His Majesty? From the moment I ascended this phoenix throne, I understood clearly that the Emperor isn't merely my husband, nor am I simply his wife. I am the Empress of this entire nation. I can tolerate concubines gaining favor in the palace. But I will never tolerate anyone who brings calamity to the nation and its people. I took a deep breath, grateful that I hadn't completely believed the contents of Song Nanji's family letter. The Empress is such a principled person. I truly don't understand how Song Nanji could have died by her schemes in my past life. The Empress continued, as noble consort Shu has said, my elder brother, General Shen Jingchuan, guardian of the nation, has also informed me that this border war is far from simple. Not only has Northern Qiong launched an attack on our Jing Kingdom this time, but they've also allied with An Kingdom and Wu Kingdom. This battle will either end in overwhelming victory or the destruction of our nation and homes. The Empress frowned deeply. With the frontline battles intensifying, provisions are the most critical. Ever since Consort Shu took charge of some palace affairs, the court's expenditures on food, clothing, and daily necessities have become increasingly extravagant. Therefore, I must now audit Consort Shu's accounts and reclaim every bit of gold and silver she has embezzled. The Empress flipped through the account books again, then seemed to recall something. By the way, did you know that your younger sister's husband, Xiao Chengyi, the heir of the Xiao family, has volunteered to join the campaign alongside the Guardian General? I was slightly shocked. Going to war alongside the Guardian General, in my past life, at my insistence, Xiao Chengyi took the initiative to request troops, but fearing others would see through his incompetence, we didn't follow the Guardian General. Moreover, in that previous life, there was no situation where the Northern Qiong allied with Angua and Wugua as the Empress mentioned, so after swapping life trajectories with Song Nanji in this lifetime, other events have changed as well. The Queen flipped through the account books day after day, while I stood by her side brewing tea. The more she examined the ledgers, the angrier she grew. She'd already shattered several teacups in her fury. I carefully wiped her hands with a handkerchief. Your Majesty, please don't be upset. Fortunately, Consort Shu's family is wealthy enough to cover the deficit. They'll make it right. In the end, the account books never reached the Emperor's desk. Consort Shu had repaid every last coin. Now only a single hairpin remained upon her head. The Empress had secretly stored all this silver within Fengyi Palace. When I asked why she didn't contribute it to the national treasury, she replied, Chenyun, in this world, the only one you can truly rely on is yourself. When this prolonged campaign exhausts the Emperor's resources for military provisions, I shall become my elder brother's support. The battle lasted for over 3 months, and it wasn't until news of the first victory arrived that the Queen's anxious heart finally settled. I inquired with the Queen about Xiao Chengyi's details, and she slammed the table angrily, mentioning that brother-in-law of yours makes me furious. My eldest brother said he's nothing but a useless fool who knows nothing about military strategy except charging blindly. I truly don't understand why he requested troops. If it weren't for my eldest brother this time, he would have long been dead without a burial place. It seems Xiao Chengyi remains as consistent as ever, just like in his previous life. By the way, Chenyun, with our first battle ending in great victory, His Majesty has decreed a spring banquet 3 days from now. Accompany me there. It'll be a good chance for you to see your sister. I was somewhat flattered by the unexpected favor. I'd actually heard about the spring banquet news as early as yesterday, but considering my low rank and fearing the Empress might make things difficult, I hadn't dared mention it. At such an occasion, wouldn't this concubine be of insufficient rank? The Empress lifted the chicken soup made by the small kitchen and placed it before me. What are you afraid of? With my protection, who dares say a single word against you? Suddenly, my nose tingled with emotion, and a tear swiftly fell from the corner of my eye. So this is what it feels like to be remembered. How wonderful it would be if the Empress were my own sister. At the spring banquet, this was my first meeting with Song Nanji in half a year since entering the palace. She sat beside Xiao Chengyi, looking at me with an air of arrogance. After entering the palace, I hadn't been promoted, and Song Nanji knew this, and that her husband, Xiao Chengyi, had won a battle. I knew this too. Song Nanji covered her mouth and laughed at me. Sister, have you come to the wrong place? This is the spring banquet. and someone of your 6th-rank concubine status isn't qualified to attend." I ignored her and walked straight toward the direction of the Empress. The moment I took my seat beside the Empress, Song Nanji's smile suddenly froze. She furrowed her brows, her face filled with confusion. I thoroughly enjoyed the entire spring banquet, savoring rarely seen lychees and admiring the breathtaking dance performed by Jing Kingdom's top courtesan. Just had a few cups of plum blossom wine coaxed by the Empress, and now my head feels a bit dizzy. "Your Majesty, this concubine cannot hold her liquor well. May I be excused?" The Empress looked at my dazed state and laughed. "Noble Lady Song, you may return to your chambers to rest. Look at you, truly tipsy after just one cup." Just as I was being helped away from the spring banquet by the palace maid Yu Huan, Song Nanji also left the scene. "Song Qianyun, in the long corridor not far from the spring banquet, Song Nanji stopped me. She looked down at me with an air of superiority. "You're actually alive, and even managed to cozy up to the Empress. How unexpected." Seeing Song Nanji sobered me up by about 70 or 80%. I no longer needed Yu Huan's support to stand steady. "Yu Huan, I need to speak with her alone. Wait for me over there." After sending Yu Huan away, I confronted Song Nanji directly. "You've been reborn, haven't you?" Song Nanji was shocked. "How did you know?" I chuckled softly. "Because I've also been reborn. There's just one thing I can't figure out. The Empress is such a good person. Why did you get outmaneuvered by her in your past life and die miserably in the cold palace?" Song Nanji sneered. "You're on good terms with the Empress now. But I died by her hand in my past life, so you're still afraid of her, aren't you? You're trying to pry information from me. Why should I tell you anything? I can exchange a secret with you." Song Nanji raised an eyebrow. "What secret?" I leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Let me tell you, Xiao Qingyi is an idiot. The only reason he never lost a battle in his past campaigns was because I was sitting in the command tent, acting as his strategist." Song Nanji flew into a rage and reached out to yank my hairpin. "Song Qianyun, what nonsense are you spouting? I know you're jealous that I get to marry Xiao Qingyi in this lifetime, but there's no need to fabricate such lies. A little girl like you who's never set foot on a battlefield, becoming a military strategist. What a joke." I let her vent without resisting. "Because I saw the Empress approaching us." A palace made by the Empress's side shoved Song Nanji away. "Where did this wild girl come from? It's not your place to lecture the imperial concubines." Song Nanji was about to lose her temper when she saw that the person behind her was the Empress. Her face flushed red with suppressed anger, but she dared not say a word. The Empress glanced at her. "Noble Lady Song is under my protection. If you have any grievances against her, you may address them to me." Perhaps because she had died at the Empress's hands in her past life, Song Nanji felt a trace of fear. After stammering through a few words, he took his leave from the Empress. The Empress scoffed lightly. "This sister of yours is nothing like you." Indeed, Song Nanji was raised in indulgence. Naturally, she and I are nothing alike. With the first battle lost, the northern Qiong, along with the states of An and Wu, abandoned all pretense this time, launching a joint attack against the Jing Kingdom. Xiao Qingyi fought well in his first battle. And just like in my previous life, the Emperor sent him to fight against the northern Qiong, and Song Nanji, also as in my past life, volunteered to accompany the army. In my past life, I went with the army to command the battles, but I'm not sure what she went there for. After the Jing Kingdom's army set off on their campaign, I stayed by the Empress's side day and night, fearing I might miss even the slightest news from the front lines. That day, the Empress didn't look well. My heart trembled the moment I stepped into Fengyi Palace. "Your Majesty, has there been news from the front lines?" The Empress sighed. "Xiao Qingyi's 8,000 elite troops were halved by the northern Qiong, and Fengling City is lost." I took a deep breath. In my past life, it all began with Fengling City. Xiao Qingyi went on to lose 3 cities in succession. He only began trusting my strategies when he could no longer hold out. Then I led him back to battle, not only reclaiming the 3 lost cities but also capturing several from northern Qiong. That year, northern Qiong suffered a crushing defeat. Xiao Qingyi returned triumphant, and without a word, I let him take all the credit. The following year, he led troops again to attack the western regions but was utterly bewitched by 2 exotic beauties presented by them, nearly betraying his own country. It was I who staked my life to rein him back from the brink and secure the western regions. It was also there that I learned of passion's perfume and heartless incense, mastering their blending techniques. From that moment on, Xiao Qingyi knew no defeat, his military achievements surpassing even those of the Guardian General, Shen Jingchuan. But today, I cannot fathom how many cities Xiao Qingyi will lose. The horrific scene of the northern Qiong people massacring the city after capturing it in my past life is still vivid in my mind. Neither the elderly nor children were spared. The northern Qiong laughed as they slaughtered, saying the blood of us Jing people gushed out so beautifully. At this thought, a fine layer of sweat had already formed on my forehead, and my eyelashes trembled uncontrollably. The Empress picked up a handkerchief and wiped my forehead. "Chen, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" I grasped the Empress's hand. "Your Majesty, do you know the consequences of Xiao Qingyi's defeat in this battle?" The Empress pondered for a moment. The Jing Kingdom would lose its southwestern cities. Far more than that. I took out paper and ink, sketching for the Empress the battle routes of the three generals' expedition. "Your Majesty, do you see it clearly now? Once Xiao Qingyi is defeated, the northern Qiong people will ambush General Shen from behind. With the former and kingdom in front and the northern Qiong behind, General Shen's army will be caught in the middle, even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. It would be difficult to win this chaotic battle. Your Majesty, you also know that Xiao Qingyi is just a useless fool. Unless heaven takes pity on him, he cannot win." The Empress's expression also turned grave. "Then what should we do? Xiao Qingyi has already led the troops to battle. We can't just have the Emperor summon him back, can we? Moreover, the harem must not interfere with state affairs. This is challenging His Majesty's authority." I looked at the Empress. My words deliberate and resolute. "Since childhood, I've studied thousands of military texts. If Your Majesty could secretly send me into Xiao Qingyi's army, I swear I could lead him to victory." The Empress furrowed her brows repeatedly. "Chen, this is a capital offense, and leading troops into battle is men's work. Though you've read military texts, you might not." I interrupted her. "Your Majesty, you're a woman yourself. Do you also believe women are inferior to men?" The Empress fell silent. "Is this treason? Isn't the fall of a nation and destruction of homes also death?" "Your Majesty, I've witnessed the suffering of those common people and cannot bear to see it again." The Empress fell silent once more, but this silence signified consent. The Empress and I spent several more hours planning. Once the plans were set, she immediately dispatched people to assist with my departure from the palace. I took advantage of this moment to return to the palace. Changed into a more comfortable outfit, and had all the treasures I'd collected over the past 6 months carried to Fengyi Palace. "What is this?" the Empress asked, pointing at my large chest. "These are all the treasures I've managed to acquire from various concubines in the palace over the past 6 months. I opened the chest to reveal an assortment of rare and precious items, each one essentially tuition fees paid by the concubines for lessons on how to please the Empress. I had intended this box for my retirement, but now I'm going to the front lines, so I'll put it with Your Highness's provisions. When I can't get food, I hope Your Highness will feed me promptly." It took me over 10 days to reach Jiangning City, by which time Xiao Qingyi had already lost 4 cities. The people within Jiangning City were suffering immensely, startled by the sounds of war and unable to sleep day or night. By the time I arrived, Xiao Qingyi and Song Nanji had long since disappeared. "I'm the strategist sent by General Shen. Which of you is the deputy general?" I raised high the Shen family token given by the Empress and shouted at the chaotic army. A sturdy young man stepped forward from the ranks. "I am." "Where is Xiao Qingyi?" I asked him. The deputy general scratched his head. "General Xiao seems to have fled with his wife." "Fled?" "Xiao Qingyi became a deserter after losing just 4 cities. General Xiao said we can't win this battle, he doesn't want to die, so he left us here to hold the position while he and Lady Xiao wait for us in the next city. What do Xiao Qingyi and Song Nanji take the lives of the common people for?" I was so furious my hands trembled as I pointed at the young man and said, "Since you're not afraid of death, from today onward you'll be the commanding general." The young man looked frightened and waved his hands. "I can't do it, military advisor." My gaze was fierce and brooked no refusal. "If that fool Xiao Qingyi could do it, why can't you?" The next day, I led the remaining 3,000 elite troops and caught the northern Qiong off guard under cover of night. In just 7 days, I had Xiao Qingyi's army fighting their way back to Fengling City. When news of consecutive victories reached Xiao Qingyi's ears, he came running back with Song Nanji in tow. I stood atop Fengling City's walls and refused to open the gates for them. Song Qianyun, have you come to save us? I'm your sister. Quickly order them to open the gates. Song Nanji cried out beneath the city gates, her face haggard with exhaustion. I am General Xiao Qingyi. Open these gates at once to receive us. I stood atop the city gate and summoned the new commander, Meng Jiuan. Xiao Qingyi, from the moment you abandoned the city and fled, you ceased to be a commander, you became a deserter. I gave Meng Jiuan a look, signaling him to seize Xiao Qingyi and bring him up. I was well aware of Xiao Qingyi's martial skills. He excelled in mounted archery but couldn't match Meng Jiuan in close combat. Sure enough, after a few rounds of scuffling, Xiao Qingyi begged for mercy. Meng Jiuan looked up and asked me, strategist, how should we deal with him next? I declared loudly in front of everyone. Deserter Xiao Qingyi has been captured and will be imprisoned immediately. Xiao Qingyi glared defiantly. I am the heir of the Xiao family, a relative of the imperial family. How dare you, a mere consort from the inner palace, imprison me? Song Nanji also chimed in from the side. That's right, Song Qianyun. Just escaping from the imperial harem is already a capital offense. If you release me in Chang'e, we won't report your escape to the emperor. I let out a cold laugh. Silly little sister, why do you think I locked you up in the first place? The emperor is far away in his lofty palace. Xiao Qingyi and Song Nanji can't even get out of this Fengling City dungeon, let alone report anything to his majesty. In the dungeon, I went to see Song Nanji alone. Do you believe now that Xiao Qingyi is just a waste? Song Nanji still had a trace of doubt in her eyes. Did you really also get reborn? I smiled at her. Yes, when you voluntarily gave me the position to enter the palace, I knew we both had been reborn. Song Nanji, did you think that by swapping lives with me, you could swap our fates? You're wrong, Song Nanji. Fate has always been in one's own hands. Even if we were to start over 100 times, you still wouldn't be able to live your life well, because you're both stupid and wicked. Now the entire army obeys my command. If I kill you and report back to the emperor that you were kidnapped and tortured to death by the northern Qiong, do you think the emperor or our parents would ever know the truth of your demise? Song Nanji was truly terrified. She clutched tightly at my Ruchuan, her eyes reddening. Qianyun, we're sisters by blood. You wouldn't kill me, would you? I drew my dagger, pressing the blunt edge against her neck. Tell me how you really died in your past life, and I might consider sparing your wretched life. I never expected, first the historians fabricating history, and now Song Nanji forging family letters. In her past life, Song Nanji had allied with consort Shu the moment she entered the palace. Knowing the queen was allergic to peach blossoms, she deliberately shaped peach blossom pastries to resemble plum blossom ones, causing the pregnant queen to suffer severe allergies that nearly resulted in a miscarriage. In her letters home, however, she claimed she had no idea the empress was allergic to peach blossoms, and that the empress knowingly ate the peach blossom pastry despite her allergy just to frame her. When her parents received the letters, they assumed Song Nanji was suffering in the palace and began sending money to her in the palace frequently. Later, the empress gave birth to a prince, while consort Shu struggled with infertility. 6 months later, Song Nanji also became pregnant with the emperor's child. Thus, the two conspired once more, plotting to poison the crown prince with drugs and adopt the child born to Song Nanji under consort Shu's name to inherit the throne. But Song Nanji underestimated consort Shu's cunning. On the day their scheme was exposed, consort Shu shifted all blame onto Song Nanji. Royal scandals were naturally kept secret, and the emperor, mindful that Song Nanji was pregnant and unwilling to lose another prince after already losing one, merely confined her to the cold palace under house arrest. The grief of losing her son haunted the empress day and night. Finally, on the day Song Nanji gave birth to a princess, the empress sent someone to sneak into the cold palace and force Song Nanji to drink a cup of poisoned wine. Song Qianyun, in this life, you were just lucky to have chosen to side with the empress. If you had chosen consort Shu like I did, you'd be long dead by now. How could you possibly have today? I scoffed. I did indeed have to choose between the empress and consort Shu. But that day when the Empress was furious yet only threw her teacup at my feet instead of at me, I knew I'd made the right choice. I sheathed my blade and turned to leave. Song Nanji, I won't kill you myself, but since you've deserted your post, someone will deal with you when we return to court. What about you? Song Nanji shouted after me. A concubine daring to come to the army without permission. Do you really think you'll survive this? Then at least in this lifetime, I've lived more vibrantly than you. Song Nanji would never know that what I envied was never her, but Xiao Chengyi. Even though Xiao Chengyi indulged in women and idleness every day, when he wanted to lead troops into battle, there was still an elite army waiting for him. I envy how free men are in this world. While my only options were to become a palace concubine or marry someone, half a year passed in the blink of an eye. After I led Meng Jiuan to capture several cities of the northern Qiong, tragic news arrived from the imperial capital. Withdraw the troops and return to court immediately. Are you certain this is an imperial decree from His Majesty? Meng Jiuan frowned. Indeed. General Shen's campaign against An Kingdom and General Ju's campaign against Wu Kingdom have been employing delaying tactics. After half a year, we've only captured 2 cities, their supplies are running low, and with several natural disasters hitting our country this year, the national treasury is nearly depleted. At this rate, we might not be able to continue the war. And, Meng Jiuan paused, and what? And the kingdoms of An and Wu proposed that if Jing Kingdom would cede. Meng Jiuan glanced at me. The 12 cities of North Qiong we recently captured, plus the 8 cities from Fengling to Yangping, they would agree to a ceasefire and offer 100,000 taels of gold. I clenched the knife in my hand. Did the dog emperor agree? He agreed. What about the empress? What does the empress have to do with this? I am the empress's person, obeying only the empress's orders. I will write the letter now, have it delivered swiftly to the palace. Straight to Her Majesty's hands. Meng Jiuan seemed about to say something, but knowing I had my own plans, he swallowed his words. On the day the empress's reply arrived, I had already captured another city from the northern Qiong. Have no concerns, this palace can handle both the emperor and the provisions. Having received confirmation from the empress, I burned the imperial decree. General Meng. What if we capture the entire northern Qiong region and flank the An army from the rear to assist General Shen? Wouldn't that shorten the entire campaign? Meng Jiuan nodded. It's a good strategy. But northern Qiong won't be so easily conquered. The first attempt might not succeed. But this is my second time. I know all the weaknesses of the northern Qiong's warfare tactics. 3 months. I made this promise to Meng Jiuan. After all, the empress's provisions were limited. And the most difficult battle still lay with General Shen. It would require strategy rather than brute force. 3 months later, I threw the head of the northern Qiong king before the commander of An Kingdom's forces. Shall we continue fighting? If the kingdom of An is willing to surrender and sign a treaty to cease hostilities, the kingdom of Jing may spare your lives. Such arrogance from a mere kingdom of Jing. The kingdom of An, filled with bravado, had no intention of surrendering. Their commander raised his spear and charged straight at me, but halfway through his charge, he froze in shock. His soldiers had not followed him, leaving him alone deep within the ranks of our Jing army, surrounded and facing certain annihilation. The northern Qiong kingdom lies above the An kingdom, with a river that passes through the encampment of the An army. Where there's a river, soldiers and war horses must drink. I sent men to drug the upstream waters. And now the An troops and horses are either dazed or collapsed. The only one still conscious is likely the An general, who alone drank water purchased from the town. Even with divine skills, one person cannot withstand an army of thousands. The general of Angua has been captured by us, and Angua's 3rd city has fallen. But the day after taking Angua's 3rd city, General Shen informed me that our provisions had run out. I wrote to Her Majesty, but it's been a long time without receiving any reply. Has something happened to Her Highness? I asked Shen Jingchuan. Shen Jingchuan remained silent for a long time. Saying nothing, I began traveling between towns to borrow provisions, even going so far as to seize Song Nanji's jewelry to pawn. Song Nanji wept in the dungeon, swearing she'd make me pay once she got out. I shoved the cloth into her mouth. The soldiers outside are starving to death. Don't be stingy with your stuff. The army's ration went from 3 bowls of plain kanji per day to just 1. The soldiers grew so thin and sallow from hunger that I dared not casually order military campaigns anymore. We held out for 3 months in Weiyang city of Anghua before Meng Jiuan finally spoke to me. Strategist, this is the emperor forcing us to cease war and return to court. I clenched the brush in my hand. The soldiers exchanged their lives for these cities, and now the damned emperor wants us to surrender them just like that. Why doesn't he offer his own life instead? If we yield the cities today, tomorrow we'll be yielding the entire nation, since death awaits us either way. What if we win this war? And so, through my persistence, we managed to hold on for another month. Finally, just as I was preparing to return to the palace myself, the provisions arrived. I let out a long sigh of relief and wrote a reply to the Empress, after eating our fill and allowing the troops several days of rest. We took the initiative to launch an attack on the fourth city of An country. After half a year of fierce battles with Anghua, they finally surrendered. As for Wugua, they had already withdrawn their troops when they saw the situation turning unfavorable, leaving Anghua alone to fight against us. Anghua surrendered, and Beiqiang suffered a crushing defeat. When I returned to the court with Song Nanji and Xiao Chengyi, I discovered that the emperor had died. The queen said he died from a sudden illness. But I could guess, had the emperor not died, no provisions would have reached the front lines. The queen supported Prince Jing's son to ascend the throne, sitting behind him every day to govern from behind the curtain. I was puzzled. There's a consort Jing in the palace. How come I've never seen her? The queen smiled faintly. Consort Jing is in poor health and rarely leaves her quarters all year. Does that mean I'm now a royal concubine? No, the empress brought forth an imperial edict. I immediately knelt to receive the decree. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees, Song Qianyun, daughter of Song Gungli, is hereby appointed as the first female strategist of the Jing kingdom. I stood frozen in place, hesitating to reach out and receive the imperial decree. What's wrong? Not satisfied. A woman serving as a strategist, this was truly a novel concept in the kingdom of Jing. But novelty didn't stop there. The empress had established official positions for women in every role traditionally held by men. In Jing country, those with ability rise to the top. On the day I donned official robes for court, Song Nanji committed suicide in the dungeon. Truth be told, I hadn't sought revenge against her. According to Jing country's laws, she and Xiao Qingyi would have been released after serving 10 years. Perhaps, I suspect, she simply wanted to be reborn once more. Unfortunately, this time, there would be no more chances. End of this article. The second story. After so many years of fighting with Xie Fengzi, even when he ambushed me and I died on the battlefield, I never told him I was a woman. Once reborn, a thing called system told me, you died unjustly. To make it up to you, I'm giving you a chance to live. Tonight will be your wedding night. Your husband is here. Look, I've picked the most handsome one for you. I lifted the red bridal veil with great excitement. Not far away, the groom in red robes was walking towards me. It was Xie Fengzi. Is this the wonderful husband you picked for me? I slammed the door shut and questioned the system. It replied earnestly, Xie Fengzi is currently ranked as the most handsome man in this world setting, and his abilities in the bedroom are also unparalleled. Detecting that the host's heartbeat is too fast, are you too happy? Happy my foot. Xie Fengzi's face looked no different from a ghost to me. I knew you'd like it. Before I could explain, the system said proudly, now that your soul has returned to its rightful place, my mission is accomplished. Farewell. Then it vanished without a trace. I rushed to the window, ready to leap out. The maidservants shrieked, Madam, what are you doing? This is your wedding night, you can't do this. Madam, please don't lose hope. My young master will be here any moment now. The window wasn't set too high, but having died once already, my body remained somewhat stiff. I was just about to jump down. The back collar of my shirt was suddenly grabbed. Cool fingertips brushed against my neck, sending a shiver through my body. Where do you think you're going? Xie Fengzi lowered his dark eyes, gazing over with indifference. All the servants had withdrawn. I replaced the red bridal veil and sat back down on the bed. What was Akai trying to do just now? Xie Fengzi asked unhurriedly. Ochi is my current alias. He doesn't seem to recognize me, right? Back when we fought to the death, I was still a man. I took the secret of my cross-dressing to the grave. No one ever discovered it. I need some air, I said, feigning composure. I see. I thought you'd forgotten. Forgotten what? I asked instinctively. Xie Fengzi wasn't in a hurry to answer. He lifted my bridal veil with a jade rui scepter. I felt nervous, afraid he might notice something amiss with my appearance, yet he insisted on tilting my chin up with the jade rui to examine me closely. I thought Ekai had forgotten how you begged to marry me, even ruining your reputation by drugging me. Now that you've gotten your wish, shouldn't you repay me? Drugging Xiefengxi. Are you insane? How dare the system do this? Playing so recklessly before my soul returned, now I'm left with this mess to clean up. I asked with difficulty. Then, how should I repay this? Help me put on a show for the world, a performance of marital bliss between husband and wife. Yes. I didn't ask him why he wanted to stage this act. After all, as long as we weren't truly married, anything went. Xiefengxi held a high position and enjoyed the emperor's favor. Some things are better left unknown. How long will this act last? Depends, probably not too long. Fair enough. Let's call it a day for now. I hadn't even finished speaking. Xiefengxi suddenly pressed me down. Rolling onto the bed. What are you doing? I asked in panic. We agreed not to be real husband and wife. He abruptly covered my mouth. Sure, someone's outside. Hearing him say that, I also became aware. It seemed like someone had been watching us since earlier. Could this be the purpose behind his little performance? The person outside still hasn't left, perhaps waiting for the most crucial moment. Xiefengxi came up with an idea. Let's make the act more convincing. Before I could ask him what he meant by more convincing, he suddenly untied the ribbon at my chest. The crimson outer robe fell open, revealing the thin undergarment beneath. This is bad. I bear scars from previous battles on my body, large and small. They cover me from head to toe. If Xiefengxi were to see them, he would surely grow suspicious. The system told me that I was reborn in my original body, equivalent to playing dead. I clung desperately to my inner garment, terrified that Xiefengxi might continue undressing, but he didn't. He leaned down close to my ear, assuming an intimate posture. Don't move, it'll be over soon. The candle flame extinguished, amplifying our breaths. For 2 lifetimes, this was the first time I'd been pressed so close against this man. We who once schemed openly and covertly, wishing nothing more than each other's swift demise, now tumbled together beneath the same brocade quilt. The familiar scent of sandalwood clung to Xiefengxi. I could never stand it in both lifetimes. I remember once after court, I asked him, "Does Lord Xie believe in Buddhism?" "I do not. You've got a certain smell about you." I moved closer to him, sniffed twice, and mimicking the seasoned soldiers beside me, said with a grin, "Damn, that's rank." Xiefengxi's face turned ashen, and he stormed off in a huff. But didn't the teacher say that in Li Suro, the word Suro was originally a good term? Thoughts gradually grew disordered. Xiefengxi's loosened belt revealed his lean, evenly proportioned muscles. "Don't hold back later," he suddenly said. "What are you doing?" Xiefengxi didn't answer. He simply raised his hand and pinched my waist several times. I cried out repeatedly. Then I realized, the voice, in the darkness, carried a somewhat ambiguous tone. The person outside the window finally left. Only then did Xiefengxi release me. He calmly straightened his collar, as if completely unaffected. He even left the room for me and spent the night in the study himself. Yet this night was destined to be restless. I dreamed of the past. The conflict between Xiefengxi and me was entirely a factional struggle. I took command of the army in place of my deceased brother, not for power or wealth, but merely to fight for a chance to survive. And wasn't Xiefengxi doing the same? He had no aristocratic family background. In the vast capital, he was like a wild grass that anyone could snap. Yet, step by step, he persevered. Xiefengxi possessed the talent to govern the world, and thus was highly favored by His Majesty. It's just a pity that we didn't belong to the same faction. During my years as General Cheng, the two of us barely had a proper conversation. Later, I was betrayed by those I trusted and died in battle. I know it was Xiefengxi who bribed that trusted aide. He wanted me dead. No, to be precise, it was His Majesty behind him who wanted me dead. That day, gazing at the vast sky, I felt an indescribable sense of relief. If there's a next life, if in the next life, Xiefengxi and I aren't political enemies, then let's sit down and share a proper cup of tea, because I know Xiefengxi isn't a bad person at heart. I've seen him hold an umbrella for a stray cat on a rainy day. I've also seen him travel far and wide to establish schools, all for the sake of providing education to the common folk. Yet, how many can remain untainted once they delve deep into the halls of power? I am. He is too. The past is like smoke, trapping me in a dream, yet unknown to me. Xie Fengzi in the study was also unable to sleep well. The night deepens, heavy with dew. Xie Fengzi stood by the window, listening to his subordinate's report. Sir, the spy has gone to the palace. Sir. Why aren't you concerned at all? Concerned about what? It was His Majesty who was watching you. I've known for a long time. The subordinate was somewhat surprised, but upon reflection, it made sense. Undercurrents surge and shift endlessly within the court, but which could possibly escape Xie Fengzi's discerning eyes? His Majesty once assessed him thus. Even if the entire world were to go mad, Minister Xie would remain composed and steady. Never were truer words spoken. But in truth, he had seen it. As Xie Fengzi's most trusted confidant, Xuanwu had witnessed his irrational side. It was when General Cheng died. Xie Fengzi personally went to collect his remains. That day, no one knew exactly what had happened. After collecting the bodies, Xie Fengzi was completely out of sorts. He was acting delirious, muttering incessantly. I knew it. Knew what? Xie Fengzi didn't speak, and no one dared to ask. Don't you think Miss Ochi bears some resemblance to General Cheng? Xie Fengzi suddenly spoke, pulling Xuanwu's thoughts back. Do we look alike? He could barely remember General Cheng's appearance anymore. Xuanwu had no choice but to say, this subordinate doesn't think they look very similar. Moreover, General Cheng has been dead for 3 years. There's no need for you to worry, my lord. Even if it were a wandering ghost, it should have reincarnated by now. Xie Fengzi smiled faintly. You're right, I was overthinking it. He waved his hand, dismissing his subordinate. Once he was alone in the room, Xie Fengzi knocked open the hidden compartment in the bookcase. Inside lay a rusted red-tasseled spear and a portrait of a woman. They've all forgotten you, Xie Fengzi murmured softly. The sigh in that trailing note made it seem as though he were the one forgotten. After the wedding night, I truly lived a life of luxury for a while, free and unrestrained, sleeping when I pleased, eating when I wished, no more rising at dawn for duty, no need to stay constantly on guard. Xie Fengzi rarely came to see me. Though we lived under the same roof, we were like strangers. I thought we would continue like this until our inevitable separation, until an accident shattered this fragile balance. Xie Fengzi had a younger brother who fell ill as a child, with no money for treatment. The sickness damaged his mind. That day on the street, I happened to witness Xie Fengyi being bullied. Young masters from noble families circled Xie Fengyi on their ponies, surrounding him completely. Minister Xie's own brother turns out to be an idiot. Hey, little fool. Why don't you kowtow when you see us? I couldn't stand it, so I picked up a long branch from the side, weighed it twice in my hand, as if holding a spear. With one swing and sweep, they all fell to the ground before me. These young masters mostly only knew some flashy moves. I crouched on the ground and asked, still coming to bother Xie Fengyi? No, we won't. Get lost. After they scrambled away in panic, I hurried to comfort Xie Fengyi. Thus, I didn't notice. Xie Fengzi arrived in a great hurry, his sedan chair parked nearby. Behind the curtain, his gaze fixed on me was quite complex. That evening, he brought a jug of wine, saying he wanted to thank me. During the meal, Xie Fengzi casually asked, did you study martial arts before? I remained somewhat cautious and replied, I haven't studied much. But with neither father nor mother, one must have some skills to rely on. Not bad at all. Your praise honors me, my lord. Judging by your movements, can you handle a spear? Did you see everything? It was indeed somewhat strange for an ordinary woman with no one to rely on to know how to wield swords and guns. I carefully replied, I don't know how to use guns, it's just that branches are handy, so I was casually playing around. He nodded and didn't press further, full and satisfied. I got up and headed back to my room. But why does today's wine hit so hard? Lying on the bed, I closed my eyes with a tipsy lightness. I fell asleep too quickly and too soundly, so I had no idea. Xie Fengzi then entered my room, his slender fingers wound around my waistband. My apologies for the intrusion, he whispered softly, slowly loosening the ties. Scars of varying depths came into view. They stung so sharply that Xie Fengzi's tears nearly spilled. He had personally prepared Cheng Chizhou's body for burial, so he remembered every single place. She had no idea how much time had passed. Xie Fengzi stumbled out of the room. Go, dig up Cheng Chizhou's coffin. Xuanwu looked up in shock, only to see his master trembling all over. Go check inside. See if it's empty. Xie Fengzi said he had urgent business and needed to make a long trip. He left in a hurry. I haven't seen him since I sobered up. The Mid-Autumn Festival was approaching. I stayed at the manor, accompanying Xie Fengyi as we made mooncakes. Even such simple, ordinary days were once a luxury. Though Xie Fengyi was a bit slow to react, his heart was pure and innocent, making him very easy to get along with. Sister-in-law, he tugged at my sleeve, asking timidly, when will my brother return? Probably before Mid-Autumn Festival. Actually, I don't know either. Xie Fengzi never reports his itinerary to me. Sister-in-law, may I ask you a question? The thin young man spoke cautiously. Speak. Am I a burden to my brother? I heard his colleagues laugh at him because of me. Who told you that? Young master and his friends. From now on, just treat whatever they say as farting. No, that's not right. The boy hastily objected. Farting isn't proper language. I burst out laughing. What's the use of being proper? Listen to your sister-in-law, don't take others' words to heart. Your elder brother only has you left as family. If you're afraid of becoming a burden to him, then study hard and train your body well, so he won't have to worry about you. Xie Fengyi took these words to heart and nodded solemnly. The blessing bracelet I braided came out crooked, but it was finally done. I stretched out my arms and suddenly noticed Xie Fengzi standing at the courtyard gate. He must have just returned. His crane feather cloak was still on, and his hair carried the night dew that hadn't been brushed away during his journey. It was unusual. He looked at me, his eyes slightly reddened. Lord Xie. I waved my hand in front of his face. What is Akai doing? He grabbed my wrist, his voice still relatively steady, teaching how to weave a wind knot bracelet. Is this for me? He looked at the finished piece in my hand. You want it? Then I'll make another one. This one isn't very pretty. Just this one. Xie Fengzi extended his wrist. Help me put it on. I always felt there was something odd about him since he returned this time, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what exactly was strange. As I lowered my head to fasten the bracelet for him, I casually asked, where have you been these days? Fengyi keeps talking about you non-stop. I need to verify something. So, have you verified it? I said no more. Perhaps it was court matters, and I didn't want to know. With the bracelet secured, Xie Fengzi had someone escort Xie Fengyi away. Then he scooped me up in his arms. I gasped, Xie Fengzi, don't panic, someone's watching. I was baffled. Where was anyone? I sat in the courtyard for 2 hours but noticed nothing unusual. Could there really be spies in the capital that even I can't detect? Xie Fengzi strode into the room and placed me on the bed. He extinguished the candle, lay down beside me still fully clothed, and nearly pulled my entire body into his embrace. Although we needed to deceive the spies, isn't this a bit too realistic? He buried his face in the crook of my neck, his breathing heavier than before, as if inhaling my scent in deep, greedy breaths. His warm exhales sent tingles cascading across my skin. I shifted uncomfortably and gave him a nudge. Xie Fengzi, is this really necessary? Call me husband. His voice carried a suppressed intensity as he spoke. Someone's listening outside. Don't give us away. Where exactly was this supposed listener? I listened for a long while, but it remained utterly silent. Could it be that after lying down for 3 years, my hearing has deteriorated? I doubted myself, doubted the spies, but never once did I doubt Xie Fengzi. Whose husband? I awkwardly cried out. Xie Fengzi's breath hitched. The arms holding me tightened again and again. Panting sounds reached my ears, growing heavier with each breath. It made one's ears tingle with softness. I wanted to shift into a more comfortable position, so I moved my legs slightly. My knee bumped into something it shouldn't have, and both Xie Fengzi and I froze instantly. Even through the fabric of his clothes, I could feel the scorching heat. Realizing what it was, my mind went blank with shock. Xie, no, you. My words failed me too. Xie Fengzi's naturally affectionate eyes stared straight at me. By daylight, this fellow appears as pure as the clear breeze after rain. The very picture of righteousness. Yet when night falls, he transforms into a bewitching demon that ensnares hearts. Did I scare you? A little. Weren't you the one who drugged me earlier? Me. I can't explain it. That wasn't actually me who did it. But you could endure being drugged. So why now? I muttered under my breath. Akai, I'm a normal man, holding my own wife like this. It's inevitable. He let out a heavy sigh. It reminds me of the past. Those men in the army often talked about this. They said it would be unbearable if not relieved. Looking at Xiefengxi before me, I truly didn't know what to say to ease the atmosphere at this moment. I could only ask him dryly, does it hurt? Yeah, it hurts. Once the people outside leave, you can take care of it yourself. What if they don't leave? Not leaving. Then shall we stay like this forever? Could it harm his health? I've heard staying like this isn't good for the body. Questions popped into my mind one after another. Xiefengxi suddenly tightened his grip on my hand. Help me. What? Akai, will you help me? He lowered his head to kiss my fingertips, his lips trembling slightly. Seeing that I didn't refuse immediately, he took my hand and guided it beneath his robe. My heart seemed to skip a beat. Surprisingly, it didn't disgust me, like a hidden flame, burning in my palm. I didn't move a muscle, all thanks to Xiefengxi's palm enveloping mine, moving with effortless grace. My wrist had grown somewhat stiff. I gently flexed my fingers. Xiefengxi seemed profoundly affected, the corners of his eyes flushing crimson. I felt somewhat embarrassed. Xiefengxi, call me husband. Husband, husband, is that enough? Enough. Xiefengxi raised his head, his Adam's apple bobbing. He answered me with action. After that night, my relationship with Xiefengxi seemed to grow closer. He would always come to my room to spend the night. His satin-like long hair spilled across the brocade quilt. The collar was slightly open. Who knows who he was trying to seduce? Sometimes I'd wake in the middle of the night to find his arm wrapped around me, skin burning hot. I thought he was sick and reached to feel his forehead, only to find him sick at the other end. Akai, help me. He pleaded like this, softening hearts with his words. First time strangers, second time friends. After a few times, I had already learned to slip my hand into his clothes with practiced ease. When it was over, he would carefully clean my hands for me. On the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, His Majesty held a banquet in the palace and specifically ordered Xiefengxi to bring me along. Before setting out, I dressed carefully, making sure no one would recognize me. Back when I disguised myself as a man, I woke up early every day to draw thick eyebrows and glue on a fake beard. Now that I've shed those disguises, I finally remember this is what I truly look like. After entering the palace, everything went smoothly. I followed behind Xiefengxi, speaking as little as possible. When the banquet was halfway through, His Majesty excused himself due to physical discomfort and left early. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. But before I could properly catch my breath, the chief eunuch suddenly summoned Xiefengxi and me to meet the emperor in the rear chambers. My heart leaped into my throat again. 3 years had passed since he last saw the emperor, and His Majesty had aged considerably, his health noticeably declining. The entire hall was thick with the pungent scent of medicinal brews. Minister Xie, please sit. Emperor Xian warmly gestured for Xiefengxi to take a seat. Today, what brings me the greatest joy is seeing you and your wife in such harmonious union, Emperor Xian said with a beaming smile. Minister Xie, you are my most trusted official. Now that you've established your family and career, my heart is filled with boundless comfort. Many thanks, Your Majesty. It's just that your wife, Emperor Xian suddenly paused, then continued slowly, you look somewhat familiar. My heart skipped a beat, a cold sweat broke out on his back. Yet before he could think of how to respond, Xiefengxi spoke up. Although my wife grew up in hardship and solitude, her features are proper and delicate. I dare say she does not lose to the noble ladies and princesses of the capital. Hearing this, Emperor Xian burst into laughter. You certainly care deeply about your wife. With such a wife, I could die without regrets. To have tied down Lord Xie, who was never one for women, so firmly, you've got some skill. The emperor turned his head to look at me. By the way, what was your name again? I lowered my head and replied, Your Majesty, this commoner is called Akai. Ah, I remember now. Your name is Akai, and you have no surname because you lost both parents in childhood. Indeed, there aren't many women with Kai in their names, but I know of one other, Minister Xie. Do you know who that might be? Your servant does not know. Emperor Xian fiddled with the incense in the burner, speaking as if casually. Cheng Chizhou's younger sister, Cheng Kaishu. The hall fell silent for a moment, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Xiefengxi raised his eyebrows in surprise. General Xie actually has a younger sister. Yes, I only just learned of it myself. However, he and his sister were separated from a young age and had little contact, which is why he never mentioned her. I see, Xie Fengzi replied flawlessly. Minister Xie, do you know why I suddenly remembered Cheng Kaishu? Could it be that someone has mentioned it recently? Brilliant. As expected of Minister Xie, Emperor Xian clapped his hands in praise. And the stagnant atmosphere in the hall instantly became lively with his laughter. Yet, the Son of Heaven's next words sent me plummeting into an abyss. Someone has informed us that Cheng Qizhou died long ago, and the General Cheng the world has seen was actually a woman. Minister Xie, what do you think? Xie Fengzi fell silent for a moment before replying. This subject finds it utterly absurd. We think so too. However, we have decided to open the coffin for verification. Open the coffin. Opening it would be disastrous. I've resurrected in my original body, so the coffin is currently empty. Though it wouldn't affect me much, I could always make a quick escape. But the Cheng family still had some distant relatives remaining. If this were exposed, all those innocent people would die tragically because of me. What should I do? My heart burned with unbearable anxiety. Beside me, Xie Fengzi suddenly knelt on the ground and performed a formal bow. I am willing to share your Majesty's burden. Please entrust the matter of opening the coffin to me. Xie Fengzi wants to open my coffin. For this matter, he became busy. I was anxious, yet unable to speak of it. Even a fool could tell from the Emperor's actions in the hall that he was suspicious. He doubted my identity, and he doubted Xie Fengzi as well. He deliberately mentioned opening the coffin in front of Xie Fengzi, all to make him volunteer for this thorny task. How could this be? Hasn't the Emperor always trusted Xie Fengzi? When did their relationship as ruler and minister become so full of suspicion and wariness? I was as restless as an ant on a hot pan, unable to sleep or sit still. Might as well summon Xie Fengzi's confidant to inquire a bit. This trusted aide was named Xian Wu, serving as Xie Fengzi's right-hand man. I first asked him about the preparations for opening the coffin. He replied, everything is ready. We just need to pick an auspicious day to proceed. After all, digging up someone's grave isn't something to be done lightly. It seemed Xie Fengzi had given instructions. As he showed no wariness toward me, I nodded in agreement. Indeed, this kind of unlucky work might attract unclean things if not handled properly. Oh, there's no need to worry about that, madam. My master is a man of unwavering integrity. He fears nothing. Besides, this isn't his first time conducting. He caught himself mid-sentence, realizing he'd spoken out of turn, and abruptly fell silent. What do you mean, not the first time? Not the first time I've handled such thorny tasks for His Majesty. I nodded in understanding. Then I asked further. I've heard people say His Majesty places great trust in Lord Xie. But when I entered the palace that day, it didn't seem to be the case. Alas, my lady knows not it's all because of that Cheng Qizhou. What does he have to do with this? 3 years ago, my master chose death over obeying the imperial decree to frame General Cheng. From that moment, he lost His Majesty's trust. This matter isn't really a secret, everyone at court knows about it, but no one dares to discuss it. Xian Wu glanced around to ensure no one was nearby before continuing. You all only know General Cheng died in battle, but what you don't know is that he was actually betrayed by his closest confidant. No, I know better than anyone. General Cheng's achievements overshadowed the Emperor's authority. His Majesty has long wanted him dead. The Emperor entrusted this matter to my master, ordering him to bribe General Cheng's confidants. It didn't matter how he died, as long as he never returned. My master refused. Do you know, madam, that defying an imperial decree is a capital crime? My master is gambling not just with his own life, but also with the life of his most beloved young lord. Seeing my silence, Xuan Wu thought his words had frightened me. He paused for a moment before continuing. In the end, though His Majesty didn't kill our master, a rift had indeed formed between ruler and subject. Those opportunistic curs among the officials began to shit and fart all over our master's head. Xian Wu wasn't well educated and spoke rather crudely, but I could well imagine how difficult it must have been for a civil official like Xie Fengzi, without the backing of any powerful family, to navigate the imperial court once he'd lost the Emperor's trust. I asked, what happened then? Later, His Majesty sent someone else to handle this dirty business, to prevent our master from informing on him. His Majesty imprisoned him in the dungeon for 3 months under strict surveillance, only releasing him after the deed was done. At this point, footsteps sounded from outside. Someone's coming, I'll take my leave first. Xuanwu swiftly departed, leaving me alone sitting dazed in the courtyard. Moments later, a fox fur cloak was draped over my shoulders. The weather's chilly, why are you sitting here alone? I looked up at the man before me, the one I considered my sworn rival. Xie Fengxi's back always seemed to stand so straight. His gaze was equally upright and clear. Xie Fengxi, can I ask you a question? Go ahead. Why didn't you kill Cheng Chizhou? I heard you nearly lost your own life over this matter. Xuanwu told you, didn't he? Xie Fengxi naturally took my hand and tucked it into his embrace to warm it. Although General Cheng and I are political rivals, I know she is loyal to the country and would spare no effort to protect the people. I could never kill a loyal subject, but is it worth it? He had worked so hard to reach a high position. Yet for the sake of a political rival, he staked his own life, his brother's life, and the lives of everyone in his household beneath the emperor's blade. How utterly worthless. Yet Xie Fengxi merely smiled, picking up a fallen flower from the stone table and tucking it into my hair. It looks nice. My vision gradually grew blurry. Xie Fengxi, do you regret it? My only regret is failing to save her. The day of leaving the coffin draws nearer. I wanted to help Xie Fengxi, yet found myself powerless. After much deliberation, I said to him, let's run away. He set down the scroll in his hand and asked, why do you say such things? Kai, now's our last chance to escape. Let whoever wants to open that coffin do it themselves. It's just opening a coffin, no need to be nervous. I stamped my foot in desperation. Listen to me, we can go northwest, where the sky is high and the emperor far away. No one would find us there. And Xie Fengyi might even grow fond of the northwestern sandstorms. Does Kai seem to have concluded that opening the coffin will surely bring disaster? Yes, how can you be so certain? Do you know something? Xie Fengxi smiled at me, yet his gaze seemed to have already seen right through me. I bit my lip, finding it hard to speak. Coming back from the dead is such an unfathomable matter that it defies all explanation. Besides, Cheng Chizhou is a man. How could I possibly explain my current identity to him? Perhaps it's better not to tell him at all. Last night I had a strange dream. The coffin was empty inside. His Majesty was furious, and I fear many heads will roll. That is indeed strange. Xie Fengxi nodded leisurely. It sounded like listening to storytelling. I'm not joking with you. My dreams sometimes come true. Then when will you dream of your husband? What? The topic suddenly shifted, and I almost didn't react. Xie Fengxi had already walked over and pulled me onto his lap, my legs naturally wrapped around his waist. If Kai dreams of her husband, please be a little kinder to me in the dream. Don't make me endure for too long. I knew immediately what he was referring to. My cheeks burned instantly. I'm talking to you about serious matters. I'm being serious too. There's nothing more critical in this world than this. Xie Fengxi, have you forgotten? We're supposed to separate in the future. If Kai thinks I'm not so bad, why not let me stay as your husband forever? Are you trying to go back on your word? Xie Fengxi answered shamelessly. Even if we separate, I'll just marry you again. He affectionately nuzzled my cheek. On our wedding night, he coldly laid down 3 rules, a stark contrast to how he is now. Yet I don't dislike this change at all. Just like a moment ago, when I wanted to drag him and Xie Fengyi to escape together, I had almost forgotten that we were supposed to separate. Xie Fengxi let me sit on his lap and fool around for a while, until at last the robe wrinkled, stained with a deep blot. He cleaned my hands for me and carried me to bed. Get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow morning, we'll go open the coffin together. Xie Feng wanted to open the coffin, and he intended to take me along. From the moment I woke up, I felt as though life wasn't worth living. The overcast sky today seemed to foretell the ending. The emperor found it inauspicious and naturally wouldn't attend in person, yet he sent a retinue of trusted aides, eunuchs and ministers alike to witness this moment firsthand. Come to think of it, I've never even seen my own coffin. I woke up lying in a dilapidated temple in the outskirts, my body fully recovered and no different from an ordinary person. The coffin was hoisted up. It was actually made of golden Nanmu wood. I was astonished. Though His Majesty wanted me dead, I still got to have a golden Nanmu coffin. Wait, that's not right. Who was it that prepared my body for burial? How could I forget something so important? When I woke up, I wasn't wearing my damaged armor. That means someone changed my clothes for me. Just by changing clothes, my identity would be exposed. But then why would that person also give me a golden Nanmu coffin? Xie Fengzi turned his head to look at me. You don't look well. Are you scared? I'm a little nervous. He took the initiative to interlace his fingers with mine.
Fengzi raised his head and saw a pair of lively, spirited eyes. They couldn't be called stunningly beautiful, yet they left a deep imprint in his heart. Xie Fengzi later asked the shopkeeper about her. That day, the table on the second floor was reserved by a servant from the Cheng household. You know General Cheng Jr., right? He just won a battle recently, returning triumphant to the capital. What a magnificent sight. As for female guests, I didn't see any, probably General Cheng Jr.'s family womenfolk, young men your age. It's about time for marriage arrangements, so having female companions around is perfectly normal. Xie Fengzi felt somewhat regretful. But I also thought that such a woman would only be worthy of General Cheng. Hearing him speak to this point, I already felt ashamed. To be honest, back then I merely rescued a servant boy casually, without giving it much thought. I had no idea he would later do so many things for my sake. What happened next? I asked. How did you discover that General Cheng was actually me? That was after I entered court service. In the carriage on the return journey, Xie Fengzi recounted the story in detail. 3 years into his official career, he finally met the young General Cheng. No, by that time he was already General Cheng. Cheng Chizhou was often away on campaigns, returning to the capital only occasionally and attending court when necessary. That day, Xie Fengzi watched him from afar, feeling an inexplicable strangeness in his heart. He couldn't forget those eyes behind the curtain. Now they seemed to overlap with Cheng Chizhou's. What kind of person is Xie Fengzi? From childhood, he was clever and quick-witted, renowned as a prodigy across the surrounding villages. He stood at the back, carefully observing every move Cheng Chizhou made. No matter how convincingly he acted like a man, Xie still managed to detect a trace of something unusual. After the court session, he deliberately approached and asked, General Cheng, are you married? Not yet. Why? Does Lord Xie wish to play matchmaker? I wouldn't dare. I imagine the general isn't lacking female companionship. Wronged. That's the last thing I'm interested in. His gaze was frank and open, showing no signs of deception. Xie Fengzi abruptly changed the subject. I've heard the general began leading troops into battle at the age of 14. Truly admirable. You flatter me, Minister Xie. I've heard you could compose poetry at 5 years old. I've always held deep admiration for that. With the pleasantries sufficiently exchanged, it was time to address the main matter. Xie Fengzi casually remarked. General, why did you choose this path? Are you talking about war? By then, they had already stepped outside the palace gates, not yet boarding the carriage. The clamor of the marketplace buzzed right beside his ears. Cheng Chizhou said with a smile. Yesterday when I went to buy wontons, there were supposed to be 10 in a bowl, but Aunt Wu, afraid I wouldn't have enough to eat, insisted on scooping me 15. Aunt Wu is the lady who sells wontons on the street, even at the border, where people were so poor they could barely keep food on their own tables. They'd insist on making me a fragrant, steaming flatbread and pressing it into my hands. What does any of this have to do with you taking up arms? Xie Fengzi asked in bewilderment. Cheng Chizhou smiled. I truly have 10,000 reasons not to go to war, but the moment I think of how kind and endearing these common folk are, and how someone must stand up to protect them, all 10,000 reasons cease to matter. Xie Fengzi's heart suddenly burned with intensity. The exact same words, it's her. Even the ambitious tone remained unchanged. Xie Fengzi had never experienced such a moment of exhilaration, though his face showed none of it. From then on, she became the general, and he the civil official. He kept this secret for her until now. All these years, his gaze had always lingered on her. He saw her return to the capital wounded to report on her duties. Xie Fengzi's heart ached for her. How much suffering must a woman endure to reach this point? Yet he also resented her inability to understand romantic gestures. Learning of her return to the capital, he was so overjoyed he couldn't sleep. Rising in the middle of the night, he imitated those elegant young gentlemen by perfuming his outer robe. Yet she said, you smell strange. Even so, Xie Fengzi had made up his mind. Once the war was completely settled, he would confess his feelings. Deceiving the emperor was a grave crime. He must not let her be exposed. He could resign from his post, then live secluded in the general's residence, managing the household affairs, ensuring no one would find out. But they never lived to see that day. This world has failed its finest generals after all. By the time he returned to the Xie residence, night had fallen. It was said that after hearing the autopsy results, His Majesty made no further comment. It seems to have temporarily dispelled his doubts. Now I also understand why His Majesty previously ordered someone to keep an eye on Xie Fengxi. Emperor Xian suspected Cheng Chizhou was a woman and connected it to Xie Fengxi's refusal to obey the imperial decree. Thus, he speculated that Xie Fengxi might have long been fond of Cheng Chizhou. He was keeping an eye on Xie Fengxi just to confirm this point. Only if Xie Fengxi willingly chose to be with another woman could the emperor's suspicion be slightly alleviated. Xie Fengxi agreed to marry me at the time to navigate through this crisis. Your Majesty is indeed clever, but still falls short of Lord Xie's prowess. After bathing, I boldly straddled Xie Fengxi's lap and praised him. Whose husband is such a clever Lord Xie? Oh right, his mine. Xie Fengxi burst into laughter. No divorce then, this situation is exceptional. So we'll postpone it for now. Divorce would surely arouse Emperor Xian's suspicions again. Not to mention Xie Fengxi's resignation. I'm afraid even 18 generations of my ancestors would be thoroughly investigated by then. So tonight, will Akai finally show me mercy? Xie Fengxi looked at me, his eyes already burning with unconcealable desire. I loosened my robe's sash and lowered my head to gently kiss those lips. Xie Fengxi's lips, never before kissed by anyone, with just a bit of pressure. It turned into a suggestive shade of rosy red. There's a scar on my chest, left there when I was 15. Xie Fengxi brushed past that scar, kissing every inch of my body. The candle flame flickered, casting undulating shadows upon the bed curtains, stretching the night unbearably long. The days seemed to settle into calm. Xie Fengxi was never satisfied, insisting on stirring up trouble late into each night. Yet come morning, he would still head to court full of vigor. The system truly hadn't lied. Its judgment criteria could never be wrong. Yet beneath this calm, there always seemed to lurk turbulent undercurrents. Half a year later, the young crown prince suddenly rebelled. Emperor Xian had remained childless until old age, when he finally had this one son who wasn't particularly bright either, with the crown prince's intellect. Rebellion would be impossible. This reminded me of Xie Fengxi's recent business. I think I understand now. Before leaving this morning, he instructed both Xie Fengyi and me to stay home and not go anywhere. If he hadn't returned by evening, we were to leave the city immediately and go as far away as possible. It was nearly evening now. Storm clouds loomed over the capital, pressing down on the sky as thunder rumbled incessantly. The crown prince had rebelled, and the noble families would not stand idly by. At this moment, who knew how many factions had gathered within the capital? Can Xie Fengxi survive his return? I don't know, but I know one thing. I still have one path that might help him. I entrusted Xie Fengyi to my most trusted maid and dug up a wooden chest buried in the courtyard. This was what I quietly acquired after my resurrection, just in case of emergencies. I donned that brand new battle armor and lit the fireworks in the crate. Not even Emperor Xian knew about it. The Cheng family had been military generals for generations, maintaining a hidden private army among the populace that recognized neither official seals nor documents, only two things: fireworks and human faces. Only those of Cheng blood could summon them from their mountain retreat. This was precisely why every Cheng descendant had to hold an extravagant birthday banquet at age 13. It wasn't for celebrating birthdays at all, rather. It was to make those lurking in the shadows remember the faces of the Cheng family bloodline. Only, I'm still missing a gun. No time to prepare now, just grab any sword and make do. But just as I was about to leave, Xie Fengyi suddenly stopped me. He didn't ask where I was going, he probably knew it all along. The young boy merely glanced at the sword in my hand, mustered his courage, and said, "Sister-in-law, please follow me, we're going to retrieve your spear." The sun slowly sank below the horizon, tensions within the palace grew increasingly dire. The Xian emperor was already dead. Xie Fengxi stood with a long sword in hand, his body drenched in blood, staring at the wide-eyed emperor who had refused to believe his fate even in death. "You kill her once, I kill you once, we're even." For this day, he had prepared for a long time. Xie Fengxi never considered himself any sort of gentleman. The fire of his conviction burned for one person alone. A life for a life, fair enough. However, the death of Emperor Xian didn't guarantee he could walk out alive. The crown prince was dim-witted. Back then, Xie Fengxi had taken a liking to him because his situation resembled that of his younger brother. Now, Emperor Xian's own brother had stormed the palace, ready to seize the throne at any moment. The situation was extremely unfavorable for them. Xian Wu and his men fought desperately. With countless casualties already, victory seemed almost impossible. With blood-stained hands, Xie Fengxi lit the signal to send his wife and younger brother out of the city. They were the two most important people in his life. As long as they were safe and alive, nothing else mattered. Then, he collapsed weakly onto the ground, raindrops pelted down, striking his face. The wound kept throbbing with pain, so this was how she had endured it, day after day. Closing my eyes, her image surfaced before me. My wife's gentle countenance could dissolve all suffering in this world. Xiefengxi was content, ready to embrace death. Yet it was precisely this moment. Suddenly, war drums thundered and horse hooves roared, the palace gate swung wide open, the man wielded a red-tasseled spear, his steed trampling through blood as he charged straight through the curtain of rain. With a loud thud, some of the imperial guards knelt on the ground. They had been promoted from frontier soldiers. Cheng, General Cheng. Your subordinate pays respects to General Cheng, that god of slaughter returned, the capital is saved. Half a year later, the nation enjoys peace and prosperity. Only those palace servants who witnessed the entire rebellion that day in the palace would question themselves in the dead of night. Was that really General Cheng's ghost I saw that day? If it was, why did her hair flow so long and free? If not, how could anyone lead troops exactly like General Cheng? No one knows the answer. In the regent's mansion, I sneezed from time to time, at my will. Henceforth, I shall live as Cheng Kaishu. Years of accumulated injuries have left me unfit for the battlefield, and having been dead for 3 years, my body is far from what it used to be. A peaceful life is the best one can hope for. As dusk fell, Xiefengxi returned to the manor, bringing my favorite roast chicken. Xiefengyi showed significant improvement in both literary and martial studies today. He and Xuanwu raced outside to spar, causing such a ruckus that chickens flew and dogs jumped, utterly boisterous. I leaned against Xiefengxi's embrace, gazing at the bright moon, its radiance stretching thousands of miles. The peaceful golden age I desired was right before my eyes. The end.